Okay. So today I want to talk about extensions and some of the in-house tools that we have developed to make using extensions easier. And then I want to just show a couple examples of how we've used them in our projects. So a bunch of people have already talked about extensions, but raise your hand if you know what extensions are. Hell yeah. Show of hands if you use extensions in all your projects. Amazing. All right, so for those of you who don't know, extensions are a way to extend the functionality of the classes of the operators you're putting them on. For those of you who don't know, you can always go into Touch. I guess you can show my computer now, Javier. For those of you who don't know, you can always, where's my Touch project here? You can always click the, little Python button here, and it'll show you your class documentation. So what you're doing with extensions is adding more functionality to this class. So we use extensions all the time at Volvox. I actually like to think of Touch Designer as more of like a Python application framework with all the things that you would want for a multimedia installation built in. As a result, we end up using a ton of extensions, and instead of writing the same code every time, we've just kind of been making our own tools. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with how the process of making your own tools go. But yeah, so that's how it's called Volvox TD Tools, and this is an in-house tool. It's not available, but one of the reasons we wanted to do this talk is to kind of gauge interest in availability of a tool like this. So yeah. Before I dive in, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a live demo, show you guys the tool and how it makes working with extensions pretty nice. So this is our template. I'll talk a little bit about it later because Volvox TD Tools is pretty integrated into our template. But how it works is you import Volvox TD Tools, and there is a utility function for creating extension components. So it's a create component extension component function. You give it a name. You tell it what type you want. There's other arguments, and there you go. So what this did is it saved the component as a tox in a folder that you can set. It created an extension, promoted the extension, and it made a template extension here, and it made this par exec. So let's jump into the extension. So here you can see we're importing from the base extension from Volvox TD Tools and creating a class based on that. There's some initialization stuff here. One thing that we use all the time is there's an initialization argument for making global op shortcuts. So you put that in, and it automatically takes the name of your component. Did I hit save? Nope. Takes the name of your component, puts it in the global operators. Gabe was talking a lot about global operators. Super powerful feature in Touch. They're just global variables that you can access your components on. The other really powerful feature is you can create parameters. So here I just created a parameter with code, it automatically created this page. It made this example toggle, and there's a naming system for callback functions. So I have this on underscore on and the name of the parameter, and I'll hit save. There's a debugging and logging feature in Volvox TD Tools, and now you automatically have callback functions for your parameters. So, it's pretty simple, but it's, if you've ever like made a bunch of callback functions for your parameters, it's really nice to not have to do all that logic. We can make another parameter, this parameter type here. So I'll just go over this function. This is what creates the control page. You call it up at the initialization. You run this get page method, and it either gets the page or makes it. So we'll just make a new parameter here with the parameter template object. We'll call it start timer. Start timer. And we'll just make the callback function now. I will just copy. And I also built in this whole module that mocks up the typings for the TD API. So looking forward to code completion in VS Code in Touch Designer. But I can just import the par class and give it a type, par. And let's just make a timer real quick. And then I can go self. Me is always the operator that you're in. You can do op dot par dot start dot pulse. And the code completion is nice so that you can do if par dot, if I start typing E, it starts doing the code completion. So we'll do eval. So it'll only start the timer when the toggle goes true. I suppose I should. Yep, wrong component. And toggle goes true, starts the timer. Like I said before, it's a pretty simple tool, but because you can the way you can do multiple inheritance with Python, or even just creating parameters, from lists or from external data, it can be pretty powerful. So here is a talks that I brought in from a different project that we actually just delivered, and it's super simple. It's just an input selector, so you can select a file and select NDI, and things enable and disable just to kind of show you what you're selecting. And the extension looks like this, so we can just have an input names, and then it's really easy to iterate through that, to create parameters, to iterate through parameters and disable and enable them. Forgot to mention before, but a big reason a big reason why this tool is so useful is for collaboration. So one of our sort of design principles with Touch Designer is to put as much logic as possible in the extension. Put as much logic as possible in the extension. 1 for version control, 2 for consistency, and 3 for collaboration. There's been multiple times on multiple projects where we've had multiple Touch Designer developers all SSH'd into one machine, just working on extensions because all of the business logic is there, and it makes collaborating really easy. So this is a really simple example. Now I'll show a much more complicated one. So this was for a project we did for SAS called the Batting Lab. It's a AI-powered batting cage from the future. It was a really big project, but we custom fabricated this huge batting cage, did all the projection mapping. The big challenge was that there were tons and tons of sensors. There were 4 cameras, 2 of them high frame rate cameras that we had to record and send off to get analyzed. There was like a $20,000 baseball radar. There were like 3D weight mats. So there was lots and lots of data to ingest, send to analysis, and the end product of this was actually a 12-week educational course for these kids using it. The idea was, teach them data literacy by helping them use data to improve their baseball swing. But we had all these sensors, and it was pretty clear that we were going to need to have multiple machines. One kind of running all the data capture and processing, and one rendering out the game assets. If anyone's run a multi-instance any kind of software project, syncing state is challenging. So we use this web framework called Feathers, and it's specifically designed for real-time applications. It's database agnostic. It's sort of communication agnostic. It uses Socket.io, but you can use other sort of WebSocket protocols. It's really awesome. And it's great because you can build a web front end, and there's like a Feathers client built in, and you can subscribe to events. So we did all of our game state and game state logic in Feathers, and then we had to sync that down. So it was in sync between the 2 instances of Touch Designer. We went and created, this is the data capture project, which is angry because there's no sensors. But we made this Feathers client. And here's the extension using Volvox TD tools. But the whole reason this thing worked is because we were able to use this PyEmitter Python library, which is it implements an event emitter architecture. So I was able to do multiple class inheritance on our extension, and all of a sudden the comp was an event emitter. So Mary talked about having a model view component architecture, so that's exactly what's going on here. And I have all these current batter model, swing set model, current swing. These all represent the data that's on the server, and all that's coming in as read-only parameters, and it would update in real time because in our extension here, this is us subscribing to all changes to the batters, all changes to the labs, and it was really easy to sync down data and then have it be in sync across multiple machines. And this was the project where we had multiple people SSH'd into one machine. One person's working in Touch, doing movie stuff and textures and making graphs, and then another person's in the data model working on fixing bugs or implementing new features that at the last minute. But yeah, I guess I have a little bit of time. I'll just show off one more cool thing about the TD tools. There's a project and because Volvox, I was able to import Volvox TD tools as a built-in, so I can just add it right here. There's a project extension built in. And, it shows you the version and all this stuff. But it also reads from an env file and a config file. So I've got an env file right here where I can set, we do a lot where we, have a dev mode and a production mode, and things act accordingly, whether they're in that mode or not, or and an assets path. So this env file gets read, and then there's a config file, which is a YAML file. YAML files are like JSON, but Python was the native language instead of JavaScript. And they're easier to read, and you can add comments and things. But it's really useful because we can import our environment variables. We can set variables. We can, right here, we're setting parameters on operators. So you can change this based on your config. And down here, we have a dev config. So, we're setting a variable and turning performance mode to false in dev mode. And here in production mode, we're turning perform mode on to start. We're turning perform mode on. We're turning on some tools for logging and clearing the console. Yeah. So that's the general overview.